Hey, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to Everyday Ethics. I'm here with Persephone. We have a great discussion for you today. We're going to be talking about forgiveness. And in preparation, I read an article and I sent it to Persephone. Persephone, did you read it?
I did. I did read it.
Just as a friendly reminder to everybody, we have super chats, super stickers, and they are all very, very much appreciated. I had a little, what's the word I'm looking for here? Problem getting this up and running today. So we may have a problem with the viewership. They wouldn't let me stream to X, so I had to keep retrying, and it just produced multiple episodes. So people might be turning into the other ones that aren't working. I don't know. I'm hoping that they check this out. Let me send it on over to Mark. Let me just tell you, it is freezing cold here in Connecticut. In addition to snowing, we also have it's 19 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and I've just learned that I have to specify Fahrenheit for our foreigners, such as Persephone here. So let me just share this. Persephone, what did you think about this article, anyways? Just out of curiosity. I don't know. Not out of curiosity. Why did I say that? It's not out of curiosity. It's because we have to do a show. What do you think?
I thought it was very interesting. I thought that some of the points that they made were quite sound and some were pretty weak. I also thought that there was an interesting what word am I looking for?
I don't know. If I knew, you wouldn't have to tell me.
So, some self-help books talk about forgiveness, and forgiveness is the path to inner peace and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So I thought that there was an interesting thing there in the difference between forgiveness as they're talking about and then forgiveness as some of those self-help, ridiculous, those things talk about forgiveness, because I think what they're talking about is forgiveness, whereas what the self-help people talk about is like you should forgive someone for your own benefit. What they're talking about isn't actually forgiveness.
All right. So in the article, what happens is they tells a story about Simon Wiesenthal, who was a Holocaust survivor. And he comes across a fatally wounded German soldier, Nazi. And the guy tells him, I am resigned to dying soon. But before that, I want to talk about an experience which is torturing me. Otherwise, I cannot die in peace. I must tell you of this horrible deed, cried the soldier. Tell you because you're a Jew. And, he's asking for forgiveness for the horrible things that Nazis did to Jews. So the couple of questions are, one, should he be forgiven? And two, does Simon Wiesenthal even have the ability to forgive him, as he didn't do anything to him personally? He did it to other Jews. And it raises questions like, are there things that simply are unforgivable at all? Are there things that you can do to someone that you can never be forgiven? And does the person that you've harmed actually have to forgive you? Or if it's in a case like this where the person was harmed, people were harmed because they were Jews, can any random Jew forgive you? And then the question, do you need to feel remorse? So Leonard Peikoff writes an excellent paragraph here on forgiveness, where he says that forgiveness in moral issues is earned if the guilty party makes restitution to his victim, assuming this is applicable, and then demonstrates objectively through word and deed that he understands the roots of his moral breach, has reformed his character, and will not commit such wrong again. Forgiveness is unearned if the guilty party wants the victim simply to forget the breach and forgive without cause, or if he offers as cause nothing but his protestations of atonement, which the victim is expected to accept on faith. In regard to minor moral lapses, it is not difficult for a man to demonstrate the necessary understanding and reform. If this vice is sizable, however, such demonstration is no easy matter. in many cases. It is impossible. The problem is one of the many penalties of vice, and it is the responsibility not of the good, but of the evil to solve, assuming what is seldom, if ever, the case, that moral reform is what the evil man is actually seeking. Now, you notice that in the article, they talked about you have to feel remorse. Now, in Peikoff's description, remorse is, he doesn't even mention it. Remorse is an inward feeling, right? It's like a feeling of sadness, of guilt for what one has done. And I got to tell you, I really don't, if somebody does me wrong, the feeling that they're having is not relevant. I want to see that the person has changed. I want the person to make it up to me and demonstrate that they are going to at least try to do better in the future. They're going to put forth the effort to atone for what they've done. What do you think about that?
Remorse means nothing at the end of the day. If I do something wrong, if I hurt you and I'm remorseful and I beat myself up about it and I make that your problem, I just feel so bad about what I've done, and I make it your responsibility to soothe me and to say, "Oh no, don't worry. Your remorse means fuck all to me. You can be remorseful and continue to engage in exactly the same behavior that hurt the other person." So yeah, remorse means nothing. Changing your actions means something.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Now, what Peikoff also goes on to say in here, and just remember, for a friendly reminder, we accept super chats and super stickers, and they are very, very much appreciated. It seems I've lost my page here. This book is okay. He says forgiveness, which is legitimate when earned, must be distinguished from mercy. If justice is the policy of identifying a man's deserts and acting accordingly, mercy is the policy of identifying them, then not acting accordingly. So the innocent man or the truly reformed wrongdoer asks for justice, not mercy. He wants what is coming to him. Now, the implication there is that forgiveness can be earned in some cases. We're going to get to the unforgivable in a minute, but that forgiveness can be earned, and that if you put forth the requisite effort and you atone and you do what you're supposed to, that it's justice to forgive you. Now, the author here in this article says it's important to remember that forgiveness should always be a gift and not an expectation. It's unfair to expect any person who has been victimized, especially if it's raw, to be ready to forgive. I sympathize with that approach. And maybe sometimes things are unforgivable. But I do think that if a person has earned forgiveness, that the person has the right to expect it. The person, if you've done what's necessary, justice demands it. And at that point, if somebody's unwilling to forgive when the person has done what is necessary to be forgiven, then that person is then being unjust.
Okay. What do you...
No, you got to give your perspective. You can't just say, okay.
Yeah, no, I want to ask a follow-up question.
All right.
I get where you're coming from. What do you define in, like, what is the definition of forgiveness in that situation? What are you defining as it's justice to forgive them?
Forgiveness ultimately means that you have not, I don't want to say wipe the slate clean, because you don't forget what has been done, but you restore whatever the relationship was to what it was previously. So the person is restored in your eyes. Now, if it's a stranger, then all that means is that the person now is back to being allowed in your mind to proceed as he did before, or as she did before. If it's a close relationship, then the friendship is restored. The relationship is restored. That, in a case of a breakup, maybe that's not the case, because maybe the girl or the guy breaks up with someone who's done them wrong, ends up in a new relationship, and then forgives. You obviously can't restore the relationship, because that would entail ending the new one, but you do restore that person to a place of, okay, we are okay. We're good.
So what you're saying is that if you put in the work to change your character I owe it to you to forgive you?
Not that you, yeah, well, in essence, yes. Now we're going to get to the unforgivable, because it's not to say that everything is forgivable. I'm saying that assuming for the concept of forgiveness is applicable, meaning that it's achievable. If the person does, through word and deed, everything that would be necessary to earn forgiveness, and then the person just says, no, I'm not granting it, that person is then being unjust. If I'm going to practice justice, right, then I have to give people what they deserve. What they deserve is based on what they've earned. If they've earned it, then I give it to them.
So, one more follow-up question. If you have wronged me, do I owe it to you to give you the chance to earn my forgiveness? Because if I'm not even giving you the chance to show me that you've changed your character, do I owe it to you to let you prove to me that you have?
It's going. I don't know what you mean exactly. What do you mean? What do you need to do? I would have to know
So
specifics.
it's really difficult to get to the gist of what I'm saying, but you're saying that if you've wronged me and then you prove that you you deserve forgiveness, then I owe it to you to forgive you. But what if I owe you the chance to prove it to me? Because you'd have to be in my life in some capacity. Assuming
No, you don't, because
we're
you don't owe.
friends.
No. Let me reframe this a little bit. No, you don't owe anybody to have them in your life,
Mm.
whether that person's done you wrong or not. Forgiveness, maybe I overstated it too much in saying that it's to restore them to the place that they were before. Maybe that's not the proper place. It's that you basically just let it go. You say, I forgive you. I'm no longer going to hold this against you. Now you ask a question. Do you owe it to the person to allow that person to prove it? Okay, well, what if it's a situation where the person has completely redeemed himself, done everything correct, done everything he's supposed to or she's supposed to, and you still are holding it against them? So you're telling other people, for instance, you're expressing your judgment about it. That would be unjust.
Yeah, I agree with you. I to how do I phrase this? To me, there's a difference between forgiveness, which is something that you in this article is framed as something that you give to another person.
As a gift.
That's as a gift, right? So
Right.
I give you my forgiveness. That's something that you give to another person, but letting it go, and not holding on to resentment, or not letting like a negative judgment that you've made about someone take up space in your mind. I feel like that's a different thing.
All
I
right.
feel like,
So
yeah.
let's just back up a little bit with the idea of forgiveness as a gift, right? As maybe generosity or altruism, right? How would that fit within an egoistic framework, right? If the whole idea of ethics is acting in your own interest, right? It's to do things that are best for you. So the reason that we practice justice isn't out of a sense of duty to others, or to be nice to others, or altruistically we're going to die on that hill. The reason we want to practice justice is because it's in our behavior to do so, right? We want to be just because we understand that when you give people what they earn, you if it's a punishment, you deter that behavior in the future, And if it's a reward, you increase the likelihood of that behavior occurring in the future. And it also helps to keep bad people away from you and bring good people to you. Now, imagine what's it going to be like if you live in a world where you simply are not forgiving. No matter what a person does, you won't forgive. You're not giving people a chance to forgive. How is it in your interest to live that way? If a person has altered their character, if a person rectifies what they've done and is now, a good human being, you should want that person in your life because that's going to benefit you. Furthermore, you, I'm imagining, have done wrong as well. So it benefits you to offer trades in that way because now people may extend that same branch to you. Now, flip that and think of forgiveness simply as a gift. It's not something that's earned. Are you just going to forgive everybody and just give that gift out freely? Because if the forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person's actions, well, then it doesn't matter if they've reformed. It doesn't matter if they've done better. You're just going to give out forgiveness. But now what's that teaching people in regard to how to treat you personally? And what types of behaviors is that increasing and rewarding also are not going to be good. So if we're going to tie, which we should, connect it to our own interest, right? Then the other person's behavior has to be relevant. And I just don't see how it's in our interest to not forgive anybody or to just give it away freely. But then we need a standard. How do we determine when to forgive? And it has to be when it's earned. But then to say, well, I'm not going to give it when it's earned, well, then that's just not being just. And that's not in our interest.
I think, like most things, it's all going to be dependent on the context, how close the relationship was, how bad the wrong was. There's a whole lot of factors that are going to influence whether or not you give the person the chance to redeem themselves.
Sure.
So Katie has a question. She says, if we don't owe anyone anything, we shouldn't owe them that either. That's not a question. That's a statement. But I mean,
but it's also completely divorced from any context. It doesn't touch ground. For instance, if you lend me money, I owe you money.
Yeah.
I don't just come into the world owing you money, right? But if I borrow money from you, then I owe it to you. And similarly, if you've negatively judged me for my behavior, and then I alter my behavior, then I would say you owe justice. You should give people what they've earned. And by the way, I mean, it's not as if, you're saying, okay, I forgive you, move into my house now. Right. It's an act of forgiveness where you're not going to be speaking about the person. It's ultimately about what you owe yourself more than anything. Because when you owe what you owe to yourself is to act in your own interest. And then in that turn, is it in your interest to not forgive people when they've earned it? That would be a better way to frame it rather than see Danny. So Danny is saying, I want Danny then. Danny's making statements. He says, change or not, that person owes you nothing. Validate that. You're making a statement that's completely divorced from any standard of judgment or anything else. So I want to know by what standard does that person owe nothing? That's what I want to know. Because my standard is individual life is the standard of moral value. Therefore, it is in my interest to forgive others. It's not necessarily about owing the person, although I would say you do owe what's earned. And if a person's earned forgiveness, you owe it, but you don't do it because just as a gift, you do it because it's in your interest. Your actions are primarily oriented toward what is in your interest to do. So to say, well, no, you don't owe anybody, that's just an emotional opinion. No, you don't have a microphone, Danny, but tell me, what is your standard of morality? Tie your concrete statements to a standard of judgment. That's what I want you to do, because we've been talking about ethics from an egoistic perspective. What is it in my interest to do? Is it in my interest to hold grudges, to not forgive even people that have redeemed and have reformed? It depends. He says, explain why I owe any person forgiveness. The reason is because of justice. We've talked previously on the show about the virtue of justice. Justice is one of the virtues that egoism demands. We practice it because it's in our own interest to do so. Now, see, this is the thing. So Danny now says it's in my interest to protect myself and my sanity. Well, if somebody has actually reformed, then that person is not going to harm you. If you simply don't believe it, well, okay, is your disbelief justified? Has the person actually demonstrated through word and deed that they are better? Is it a situation where somebody has abused you over and over again? Well, then you wouldn't believe them. But this entire conversation is predicated on the idea that the person has earned it. Now, in that, we're saying that the evidence indicates, the proof is in the pudding, that the person has indeed earned it.
I think that the difficulty here comes from the idea, at least for me, the difficulty comes in, if I am going to give you the chance to prove that you have redeemed yourself, if I'm going to give you the chance to prove that you deserve my forgiveness, I'm also opening myself up to the possibility that you don't deserve my forgiveness, and all I'm doing is giving you
But what do you
another
mean by
opportunity.
that? What do you mean by giving me the chance?
So if you're talking about a person that's wronged you, right?
Yes.
You specifically, and
Yes.
you're saying that if they have proven that they deserve forgiveness, how have they proven that they deserve forgiveness if you are not following their, like, if they are not in your life in some capacity, or you are not giving them
Well,
space in your mind? How are they going to, how are you going to learn that they have proven? Am I
well,
making
I mean, if
sense?
you're talking about somebody that's absolutely out of your life altogether, I don't really know what relevance it would have anyways.
Well, I mean, I
The,
guess that is the question. Like, if
so, all right. I mean, let's tie this thing to reality. Suppose you have a boyfriend and your boyfriend cheats on you,
Mm,
right? So you rightfully break up with him. Okay, he cheats on you, you break up. He reflects on his behavior and he decides he's going to be a better person. You don't have to follow him around to know, I mean, I'm assuming this guy runs in the same circles as you. There's some connection somewhere. I mean, this isn't completely, I mean, I talk to people that talk to people I haven't talked to in 30 years. So you might hear, such and such has, he started studying. He's undergone a self-improvement program. He actually has a new girlfriend that he's very loyal to now. He doesn't cheat. He only speaks about you in the highest regard. He wants what's best for you. It's very obvious. These are the things you're hearing. Then he approaches you and says, you know what? I apologize. I was wrong for my behavior. Maybe, he says, I don't expect you to believe me right now, but anybody that knows me now will tell you that my behavior is altered, that I'm changed. And you say, you know what? You're a scumbag. I still judge you as a scumbag. I don't care what all the evidence says. But well, now it's your intellectual integrity that's on the line, right? Because you're ignoring evidence that's out there that this person is no longer the same. And none of that entails you having this person in your life, coming around in and out. See, like Danny just says, and this is such contradictory stuff here. I accept an apology, but not forgiven. Well, then you're not really accepting the apology. You're just performing and claiming you're accepting something. Justice to the victim Yeah, that's the whole thing. You see, Danny's going to drive me nuts now. I'm gonna go ballistic. I can't, because I can't go in circles. What about justice to the victim? The whole idea, what I read from Leonard Peikoff that I said agreed with, literally says, let me find it.
Go off, sister.
Huh?
Danny says, "Go off, sister."
No, he's too much.
Go
ahead and speak, and let me find what I'm looking for here.
So while you look for that, Katie says, if you're a good friend and you steal from me, that is going to be hard to prove that you have suddenly changed and aren't going to do it again. So I'm not obligated to trust and just forgive you of that. Who sets... Okay, so, Katie, I'm going to come back from that. But look, it's my husband. He says, who sets the bounds for when something is unforgivable, and when forgiveness has been earned?
Your own self-interest.
So
there's no who. Who is the inappropriate question? Reality sets the demands for human survival and flourishing. And then we have to act accordingly. But this thing literally says the person, assuming it's applicable, makes restitution to the victim. Through word and deed, demonstrates that he understands the roots of what he did, has reformed his character, and will not commit such wrong again. I mean, now, so if those are impossible to demonstrate, then forgiveness wouldn't be applicable. But literally, you're giving justice to the victim in terms of what's the word he used here?
Restitution.
Restitution. If that's applicable. So if it's something stolen, like in the case that Katie references, if I've stolen from you, I owe you to get you back the value of what I've taken, probably a little bit more, right, than just a financial thing, because it entails more than just finances. I've harmed you in ways that are not just financial. So I would have to do that. I have to prove that I'm not doing that stuff again. And then you could, in that I understand what I did. So in the case of the guy that, say, cheats on you, right? What's restitution? Well, there's no financial restitution. He's hurt you deeply, but he's demonstrated what he did, why he did it. He understands why you were hurt, that you were hurt. He's altered his behavior for the future, where he's not doing this anymore. And his character is now set. He's a good human being. Are you correct in still saying this person's a cheater and he's not a good person?
No. I think in that situation, if they have proven to you that they have changed and that they understand what they did, then I think it is justice to forgive that person.
Now, would it be right in the situation where you're saying, where I don't owe him a chance to forgive him, so to get better, right? Now, suppose this person has reformed, has bettered himself, but you just refuse to look at the evidence. You say, you know what? I'm not giving him a chance at forgiveness. Fuck him. He cheated on me. I want nothing to do with him. So now you're not accepting any new evidence in, but are you still going to go around and say, yeah, I don't trust this guy, he cheated on me? That would be wrong, because you are not accepting any new evidence.
Yeah, but what if he cheats on you? You're like, this dude's a fucking scumbag.
Yes.
You cut him out of your life. He goes off and he changes and he becomes a better person. Yeah. And someone comes and says to you, hey, do you remember this dude that you dated 10 years ago? And you say, yeah, I don't keep up with him, but when we did date, he cheated on me. You know nothing about him. You don't go around telling people, I think he's a scumbag. You just accurately state what happened.
You're just telling the truth about something. That's a different story.
But what I mean is, like, if you don't run in the same circles and you haven't heard about this and he hasn't come up to you and said, hey, I'm sorry, but you're not.
Hold on. If he hasn't, again, you can't, we can't leave this thing floating in midair.
Yeah,
the assumption is that the person has apologized to you. So then when you say, well, he hasn't apologized, well, that eliminates the entire equation. because he hasn't apologized. He hasn't atoned for what he's done.
Yeah, but
He
what I'm
hasn't
saying,
explained to you that he knows.
but what I'm saying is, if you don't like want to speak to him, you don't give him the chance. Do you owe him the chance
What
to?
you owe to yourself, never mind him, is to not be passing judgments without all the information. So if you continue to hold your judgment of him, which is, in essence, what not forgiving is. So you
Mhm.
continue to hold that view. And I'm not talking about just saying, yes, he cheated on me 10 years ago. That's of just a fact. That entails no
Judgment.
judgment is implied. But if this person reaches out to you to apologize, you say, I don't want your apology. Somebody tells you, you know what, I don't care. Right. And then somebody comes to you and says, hey, do you know Danny Susko? Because he's the guy that cheated on you. And you say, yeah, what a scumbag he is. But then you're wrong
Yeah.
because you haven't accepted any new information. You've completely pushed it out, but you're still upholding the same judgment. That's not rational. And it's certainly not in your interest to behave that way. It's in your interest to be just to people.
I get what you're saying. Danny wants to know
Danny's completely changed the whole thing. So now, I don't even, why can't you not accept an apology? You don't have to accept. You said you would, he apologized, you accepted, and you didn't forgive him. Okay. What I want you to do, Danny, for the next time we're together, which will be after you get back from vacation, you think about it. Tell me your standard for why there's no reason to forgive, that you don't owe forgiveness when someone's earned it. Explain to me within an ethical framework why that's the appropriate choice. No Name, you can do the same as well. Please do it. Don't we have a place they can go and make questions or something?
Yes, if you go to thecapitalistcorner.org, there is a tab in the menu for everyday ethics. There is a form. You can fill in your name, or you can just say anonymous, and you can just give us your thoughts. There's a
Because
form that you can.
I really want to know. I want you to tie your conclusion to an objective standard of morality. Just saying, I understand you, Daniel. No Name, not to beat up on you, but I understand it too. He harbors grudges. So what? I mean, that just tells me what he does. And saying, well, I agree. I don't want to, I don't want to forgive. These people are bad. That just tells me how you feel. I want you to connect your thinking to reality. Why do you not owe somebody who has reformed forgiveness? Now, we didn't get into it today. Maybe Wednesday we'll continue, Persephone. If somebody kills your mother, I would never say forgive them. If you've got a parent that has physically abused you, I wouldn't say that you have to owe that person a chance for forgiveness. You know what I mean? So there's certain situations where things are unforgivable.
I agree, but again, there's context to everything. Because if it's a random dude that walks up to you in the street and punches you in the face, that's different from a boyfriend that you've been with for 5 years who then cheats on you. Those are two very different
Of course,
situations.
but what that alters is what does the person what actions has the person taken? All that is relevant given the relationship. The entire context is what matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, Danny's going off because look, everyone says how much that's got nothing to do with what we're talking about, Danny. Whatever.
It's not about if they say they've changed. It's about if they demonstrate
if they've
that
proved
they've
it.
changed. Yes. And that's not just saying words. That's people, obviously you can't just say people don't change, and I'm never going to give anybody the opportunity to say once you are like this, then you're like this forever. People can change, and if they have proven that they've changed, then that's different from just saying I'm completely different now than I was 5 years ago, and
What
then
the hell?
still acting.
Danny, I don't even know what the hell this means. From my ethical perspective, I owe them forgiveness because they've said they've changed. That doesn't make any sense.
Thank you,
Katrin, thank you very much for the 149 euro. Appreciate it. We have to go. We're 5 minutes over. And I've got to get shoveling, and I will see everybody on Wednesday. Until then, be ethical.
Bye.